the second season of the IT's Her Future podcast. This series is aimed at giving an insight into various careers in the technology space that you might be unfamiliar with, and to hear from guests who work in these areas. Future episodes will be covering the cloud, sales, project management, data, and quality engineering and testing. If any of these areas are of interest, please tune in. I'm your host Neve, and this month we'll be discussing the area of cyber. Our guests are both part of KPMG's Women in Cyber group, and I'd like to welcome Katie Diacon and Jasmine Taylor. So, Katie, would you like to introduce yourself and give us a bit of a rundown to your background?
Yes, of course. Nice to meet you, Neve. My name's Katie Diacon. I'm one of the directors in our cyber team, and I also lead on our technology, media and telecommunications cyber team. So I deal with a lot of organisations, for example, the large telcos in the industry, a lot of technology-based companies, some that you'll be using their platforms every single day. And I also lead on cyber resilience, which means I help organisations work out how they prepare for, respond to, and then recover from any disruption that might happen, but predominantly focusing on those big cyber attacks that you'll probably see quite a lot in the news these days. My background is actually 10 years in the military. I was in the RAF some time ago now. I've run my own business and I've worked for the big four cybersecurity organisations for the last few years.
Great, thank you very much. And Jasmine, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure, yeah. Hi, Neve. So my name's Jasmine Taylor. I'm a manager in the cybersecurity team at KPMG, working closely, but not so often directly with Katie, actually. So in particular, I focus on delivering penetration testing exercises to our clients within the public sector. So I'm primarily working with governments, but also healthcare clients as well. Penetration testing, for those that might not have heard of it, is also sometimes called ethical hacking. So essentially, we hack our clients to help them identify their vulnerabilities and also work with them to help them with improvements so that actually when a real cyber attack comes along, they're better prepared to prevent it in the first place, but also detect those indicators of compromise, respond effectively and minimize the damage as well. So in terms of background, I've been at KPMG for about 5.5 years now. I originally joined in the Manchester office, but moved down to London a few years ago. But before KPMG, I worked for a short time in software engineering, actually, before I moved over into cyber. And before that, was studying maths at university.
Thank you both for introducing yourselves. For this episode on cyber, I think last question should be, what is cyber? What are the different areas in cyber? And can you perhaps give an overview of the area you work in? So, Jasmine, how would you define cyber?
Sure, yeah. So it's a funny point, actually, because everyone talks about cyber this, cyber that, and sometimes I think the meaning is lost, so it's good to unpick this. But firstly, the word cyber itself just means relating to computers or computer networks. But when we talk about cyber at KPMG, what we're actually talking about is cybersecurity. So what we do in this cybersecurity team at KPMG is work with our clients to help them keep their computer networks secure. But what does that mean? Well, actually, it's really broad. I think often people have this idea that cyber is super specialist technical discipline that requires 10 years of government experience or maybe having been a criminal hacker as a teenager. And that's just not true. Absolutely, some transferable skills, I'm sure, but it just isn't the case. So as well as those technical capabilities like penetration testing, which I just spoke about earlier actually, but also cyber investigations and incident response, there are other equally important parts of cybersecurity that focus on wider, broader things like strategy, business continuity and resilience, and even human psychology.
Great, thank you. I think you've really helped us understand what goes under the umbrella of cyber, as it is quite diverse. So now that we are all a little bit more familiar with what cyber is, can you explain why it's so important? So Katie, what's your opinion on this?
Well, I think even if we don't use the word cyber, it's present in our everyday life. We're so used to doing stuff online now. Everything we're doing, from banking to ordering our groceries to engaging with people through email, through WhatsApp, through chats, chatbots, however we're engaging and running our day-to-day lives, a lot of it is online. We're even paying for stuff online now. So all of those details about us, about our banks, about how much money we have, about what we're buying, that's all in the cybersphere. And therefore that data and the things that we're doing online need to be secure, because the last thing that we want is to have all of our details, especially our bank details, out there in cyberspace for anybody to be able to pick up. So securing that cyberspace for every organization is hugely important, because they don't want to lose the data, because that's likely to mean that the reputational risk that they would pose to them would be so big that the company would go bust. So it's become super, super important for everyone, including ourselves, and working on our own laptops at home, that we make sure that we're not losing what we're doing, losing our work, losing our access to our lives and our daily lives. So cyber, even though we might not be calling it cyber, but the security aspect of it, massively important to every single person in our everyday lives for everything that we do.
I think you've contextualized that really well. As you're giving the examples, I was like, yeah, I really do use cyber, to use the term, every day. So for your roles within the cyber space, what would you both say are some key skills that you might need at an entry level to get involved? So Jasmine, what's a key skill you see amongst yourself and your colleagues?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I think one of the main things that we're looking for is curiosity. As I said previously, cyber is a field which sounds very, very specialist, but as soon as you almost scratch the surface, you realise it's just so broad. And actually, in line with that, there's a whole range of skills that are really valuable. You know, there's so many different things to do and so many different things to learn as well. But I think curiosity is the thing that ties it all together. And I suppose the fact is the technology landscape and also the world around us, geopolitical landscape and so on, it just changes every day, right? And frankly, faster than any of us individually can keep up with. And so I think to think about a career in cyber, that curiosity is the thing that's going to keep you motivated to keep learning, because there's just the new things to learn. The list gets longer every single day. And so that can be a challenge or an opportunity, I think, depending on which way you look at it. And so that enthusiasm and the passion to keep learning is something that's really, really valuable. And I think if you've got that, then the rest will come. I suppose there's another point on there around the diversity within cyber itself, around actually that diversity of thought is a really good thing as well in our teams. Consistently, cyber is about problem solving. And I think we know well enough by now that the best way for a team to come up with the best outcome or best solution to a problem is to have diversity of thought within that team.
I think curiosity was a great point, because anybody listening to this who might want to get into cyber has that natural curiosity and is leaning in to learn more themselves. So Katie, is there anything you'd like to add to what Jasmine said?
I can echo Jasmine. There's definitely something I look for when I'm bringing anybody in to work with our team, and that's attitude and enthusiasm. And that kind of follows on, Jasmine, from what you've just been saying with about a willingness to learn. If you come with the right attitude, we can teach you everything you need to know about cyber. And that's probably the most important skill that I look for. It's so be enthusiastic, be willing to learn, have the right attitude, and you can be involved in this industry.
I think you've both made some amazing points about some skills that people probably wouldn't have thought of. They might have thought of more of the hard skills than the soft skills. So to wrap up the podcast, I like to end with some practical advice. So what would you both say to either someone at entry level to cyber, or perhaps someone considering a career change? So Katie, would you like to start?
So I've got two things that I say I'll tell to people both coming into the industry and those in the industry as well. And that's get a mentor. So find somebody that's already in the industry and they can support and encourage you and help you and guide you as you make your way through it, whether you're already in or whether you're looking to come in. I think that's a really, really valuable thing to be able to get hold of. And the other thing is network and stay in touch with the people that you network. That's been invaluable to me in my career, knowing and learning from other people. And then they open doors for you and they will be able to connect you with other people. So wherever you go, you'll be networking. Find a way to stay in touch with those people that you're networking with, because you never know when it's going to come in handy.
I think mentorship's a great point. I know in KPMG and within IT's Her Future, there are such great focuses on mentorship schemes. And in my year, I know I've had 2 mentors who have just been so valuable to my progression in a year alone. So Jasmine, what's some advice you would like to give?
Definitely agree with Katie's points there. I've had amazing experiences with mentorship as well, and the power of your network. Just to add to that, we talked a little bit about curiosity earlier, but to continue on that vein, be curious. There's such an amount of free or cheap online resources that you can use for your learning and upskilling. I mean, even just the news, you really don't have to look far to find cyber relevant content and stories, but also other online resources that really help with your learning and upskilling. And if you can demonstrate that actually you've been involved in some of this self-motivated learning or maybe some other side of desk projects. Maybe you've bought some Raspberry Pis and set up some sensors around your home to control the temperature of your fish tank. But these types of projects that are just for the sake of it, that actually shows us as potential employers that you have the drive and the curiosity and the willingness to learn to really succeed in cybersecurity and at KPMG as well.
Great, thank you both. That was some really good advice, and I hope our listeners do take it on board. Thank you so much, Katie and Jasmine, for talking with us today. It was great to hear your insights, and I hope those listening have learned a lot about the area of cyber. If you think a career within tech or within KPMG is for you, please go to our website www.kpmgcareers.co.uk. And if you wish to reach out to us at IT's Her Future, or to ask any questions if you have any topics you think we should cover, the email is itsherfuture@kpmg.co.uk. Thank you for listening.